Hello,
Hi,
and welcome to this week's Walk the Wu Wei video. It's lovely to be back with everyone again. So today we're talking all about affirmations. And how to create powerful affirmations that really, really work for you and achieve the goals that you want to achieve. So, well, have you tried affirmations? Have you struggled with them? Maybe you've tried an affirmation and in the moment of doing the affirmation, it felt good. You got some positive green light feelings, but then actually you didn't achieve the end results. Or a lot of people, when they come to us as clients, they say, I tried affirmation, didn't work at all. And I had a real internal resistance and struggle when I said the affirmation to myself. And so I just gave up. So we're here to tell you that affirmations do work and can be incredibly powerful if you create them and use them in the correct way. So we'll be running through what are the kind of top mistakes to avoid when you create and use affirmations. We'll also be going back to the fundamentals and back to basics and talking about how affirmations actually work, how they influence our mind and our thinking, but also from a Taoist perspective, how they relate to qi energy flow, energy vibration, and the law of attraction, because it's really important to understand those fundamentals in order to work with them as a tool for positive change in your life. And then finally, pretty much for the second half of the video, we're going to be drilling down in detail and sharing with you the affirmations, the Wu Wei Wisdom affirmations methodology that David uses with all his clients as part of his Wu Wei Wisdom therapy and coaching work, integral to the golden thread work and all the other Wu Wei Wisdom tools we use. And so we're going to be sharing the nuts and bolts secrets of how you can use that tool and create some affirmations that are perfect for you so you can really achieve the goals that you want and the transformation that you want in your life. So please stick to the end of the video to hear all those little tips and secrets.
So that sounds a lot.
So quite a lot. As per usual, it's going to be a fun-packed video. If you're new to our channel and want to know how Wu Wei Wisdom can help you flow effortlessly through life, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notifications button to receive all our latest video updates. To begin with then, David, how would you define an affirmation, just so we're all kind of clear on what we're talking about?
Well, I love talking about a subject like this because I can offer a different insight coming from a Taoist perception, coming from what I've learned in China, thinking about an affirmation in a slightly different way and how you use an affirmation. And so one thing that always sticks in my mind, and I think you were there, I was doing a talk and we were talking about affirmations. And this one lady put her hand up. She was very brave because it was a full audience, remember? Yeah. And she put her hand up and she says, David, I've got to stop you. Affirmations don't work. Mm-hmm. And I said, how so? And she said, well, I've sat in front of a mirror every morning now for about 3 or 4 months, and I look in the mirror and I say to myself, you are beautiful, you are awesome, you are lovable. And I keep on saying it, but it's never worked. And I said, well, I'm really sorry to hear that. Can I ask you one thing? Do you believe it? And she said, no, of course I don't. And that's one of the keys. That's what I want to talk about today, is how to make those affirmations something you really believe in and how you work through that.
So if an affirmation, an affirmation can be a positive statement of intent or also a negative statement of intent. And I know, it's quite true that all throughout the day, whether we're saying stuff out loud to ourselves or our self-talk, whether it's positive or negative, that is, in essence, an affirmation.
And you know the 3 main affirmations we say to ourselves?
Yeah.
I'm not good enough. I can't cope. I'm unlovable. How many times do you say those lies to yourself. And those are affirmations. You are saying that, reinforcing all of the time. That negative self-talk are affirmations. So this is why I want to give you a different perception on what an affirmation is. It's that self-talk. So you're already saying it. Because you don't have to learn how to say it. What you have to do is to get those affirmations aligned to your truth and what you really believe.
So, well, that brings us on to the first. I mean, it is the most fundamental mistake that people make when they create and use or try to use affirmations as a tool for good, is the fact that there's an issue, an incongruence, a conflict with the truth, and it's almost, that's what creates the internal resistance and conflict. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, and I think this is one of the things that defines the way I teach and think about affirmations to most other people. So this is the analogy that I'd like you to think about. Imagine you had a back garden or a backyard and it was full of weeds. Well, one of the ways you can get rid of the weeds is just to lay some slabs, some stones on top. And in a few hours, your garden will look neat and tidy. But after a few weeks, the weeds will go through and they will disrupt and you'll be back to where you started. And so that's why you have to be really clear that an affirmation isn't just putting something. So if you believe a negative and then just putting something on top of it is going to cure it. Because what you have to do, first of all, is what we call the golden thread. You have to dig down to those negative beliefs, dig up the weeds, and then put the positive affirmation on top. And that's what I believe is the difference in the way that we deal with affirmations to when I hear other people talk about it. So it's doing the golden thread work first that we've already talked about, and I think you're going to put some links into some videos. So doing that work first and getting to those lies, because those lies are negative affirmations.
So to use your example, if I believe I'm not lovable, if I believe I can't cope, if I believe I'm not worthy of love, I'm not good enough. If that's my kind of core belief, my lie, even if I have pick a great affirmation, you know, I am lovable, I can cope, etc., 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 and lay that like a concrete slab over my core belief, what you're saying is no matter how many times I repeat that affirmation to myself, I look myself and sit in front of the mirror and say it, I write it on Post-it notes and stick it around the house, no matter how hard I try and apply that positive affirmation, the weeds of the core, the rooted core belief, and I guess the habitual patterns of self-talk and thinking that spring from that misunderstanding, that lie, will always grow through. And therefore the affirmation has no impact whatsoever.
That's right. And so if you doubt what I'm saying, just think about when you're looking for validation or reassurance from other people from outside, that's really what you're doing. You're saying something to yourself like, I'm unlovable, I can't cope, there's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough. And then you're looking around for somebody else to counteract it. And in that moment, they say, of course I love you, of course. You know, people come in and say, when I look in the camera and say, you're awesome, of course you're awesome. You like that for that moment, but it hasn't changed your core belief. And really, the only person that can change your core belief is you. You are the only person because you are the one that put it in there. I do absolutely believe you are absolutely awesome. I can't believe it any more than I believe it because I believe in oneness. So I believe that I'm awesome. So if I believe I'm awesome, I have to believe you're awesome. So the only one that disbelieves it is you. And so you have to get down to that core. And that's why putting positive affirmations in, I am going to be really happy, I'm going to strive, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be the best that I can be. Yes, for those few moments, it feels really good, but it doesn't deal with the core of the issue.
So that's a kind of an untruth, an incongruence, an internal conflict between your core beliefs and what the human-centered mind and also your inner child is deeply rooted and kind of programmed into thinking. So that lack of truth means they don't work. There's another issue with truthfulness, I think, where people have this tendency to think, right, my current situation is I've got no money, I'm really, really poor, I really always struggle with money, and my affirmation is I want to be a millionaire, billionaire, and never, ever, ever have any money worries again. Or I believe currently I'm unlovable and I want everyone to love me. Everyone loves me. That's my affirmation. And there's such a kind of massive gap between where you are now and this kind of false reality that you're creating in the affirmation, that's never going to work either.
Well, it's really important because you see what Alex did there. And remember, we talk every video about the pendulum. So what happens is you put yourself on one end of the pendulum, you know, I'm unlovable, yes. And then you swing to the other thing. Everybody should love me. Yeah. It's almost a narcissistic view, isn't it? Everybody should value me. Everybody should agree with me. I should be number one. I should be the first they think about. I should be top of the tree. Top dog, I call it. You should be number one. And you're just swinging from one part of the pendulum right to the extreme, the other part. And then you create this pendulum swinging, which you'll never be happy. And you're missing out the bit in the middle. This bit in the middle is the Wu Wei.
Yeah.
And this is what the authentic, truthful, honest self.
So we have to be mindful of the internal conflict with our beliefs, and we'll talk a lot more about that later when we talk about how we use affirmations in our model. But we also have to be mindful that the affirmation we're using is an authentic affirmation. It's not based on another far-fetched reality that is totally unachievable. So that's the issue with truth dealt with. The second issue in terms of common mistakes people make is around affirmations not being kind of relevant or up to date or personal to them.
Yeah. So they'll read an affirmation
in a book
or a newspaper, and they think, well, that's really good. I should adopt that.
Yeah.
And they don't apply it to themselves.
Or it doesn't apply.
Or it doesn't actually apply. Yeah, exactly.
It's just a kind of vague, wishy-washy idea of how things should be.
And this goes back to how many times do we talk about taking self-responsibility? This is back to taking self-responsibility. Accepting where you are now, find it. Own where you are now, own where you are, and then see where you want to go to, find it, own it, change it. So you have to extreme, this is where, so if it's about money, this is my financial state now. Don't lie and say, oh, I'm really poor, oh, I can't, and make it worse.
Money comes to me in bucket loads.
And don't go to the other extreme and say, I should open the door and somebody should have left, or I'll need to win the lottery like next week. Be realistic where you actually are. Understand and acknowledge that you are coping. Yes, you could have more money and it could be better, but you are coping and things are well. And so be truthful. We're always talking about being truthful. Don't make it into a drama. Don't over exaggerate. So lots of people, they'll come and sit with me and they'll give me the opening statement, and they'll always want to make it more intense, much worse. And I understand why they're doing this, because they want to say, David, this is really bad. You don't understand how bad it is. And I do understand how bad it is, but making a drama, making it worse, creating a game is not going to work. Be realistic, be truthful, be honest. Where you are now, what is your position now? Whether that's about loving yourself, whether that's about money, whether that's about your career, whatever it's about, be truthful, be honest, take a breath, drop your shoulders, and just learn to be truthful.
Yeah, and we'll show you how to work through that process as well when we go through the methodology later on. So making it entirely personal to you, not just taking an affirmation that sounds quite nice that you've heard on a recording or read online or in a magazine. You need to take the time, take self-responsibility to craft an affirmation which is personal to you and relevant to you in this moment in time.
Yes.
Because as we'll go on to explain a little bit later, affirmations should be almost like a living thing, a living energy, which should be allowed and help to adapt and change and transform as you adapt and change and transform.
And not written in stone.
Not set in stone.
No.
It needs to move and change with your energy. As your energy positively moves and changes, so should your affirmation be tweaked and reworded and changed by you, and enjoy that process like a meditation.
And it is a meditation. A good affirmation is a meditation.
Yeah. Okay, so David, I've created my affirmation.
Yep.
I believe it's truthful.
Good.
I believe it's relevant to me. It's not just some random affirmation that I've heard on an audio recording. And I say it in the morning, and it feels great at the time. I feel lots of green lights, but nothing happens because actually, after I've done the affirmation, I'm just kind of expecting things to change for me. So that's the problem, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You do the affirmation and then don't do any work.
Well, I would say, but why'd you do that? See, immediately you go into the golden thread.
I think it's false expectations about affirmations.
I was going to say.
Alex,
you need to do some golden thread work.
A lot of people think that, I mean, you say it's like the golden needle. That an affirmation will be the golden needle or the golden key. That all you have to do is say the affirmation enough times, and then suddenly everything changes. The misunderstanding is you also have to live and breathe the affirmations throughout the day.
And that's why it has to be truthful.
Yeah.
That's why it won't work if you're not being truthful.
Yeah.
If you set yourself too far to step. Affirmations should be little steps that you can manage and you can do. Even if you say, today I will do X, Y, Z. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Just today I will make sure I will have my lunch on time. Today I will make sure that I have a break. Today I will walk to the next bus stop and not, just do a little bit more exercise.
Today I am taking
and so
self-responsibility for loving myself more, for my own self-care. And so it's small. So I guess what you're saying is the affirmation that you create should give you a positive push of forward momentum, say at the beginning of the day. But then for the rest of the day, you do have to action and adhere to and live and breathe and think and do what almost like that small promise you've made to yourself.
Well, it is. And there's a great Taoist saying then is that make and keep small promises.
Yeah.
And when you do that, as what you're doing is building up your integrity. You're building up your trust in yourself. You're becoming your own coach. And this is a really important thing. So don't imagine walking, don't set a step that you can't make. Make a step that you can make. Yeah. And then you'll start to create green light feelings that we would call confidence, self-esteem. You'll start to find that you can do more and more and more. And these are great affirmations. So rather than sticking to a global affirmation,
a huge one that's miles off.
Just say you walk to work and you want to increase your exercise and you time yourself and it takes 15 minutes to walk to work or the kids to school. Then say, well, I'll do that in 13 minutes. And then time yourself. And those little increases starts to build up that positive momentum. And so what you're doing, this is the law of attraction, isn't it? You're starting now to change the way you think, to bring in new energy into your life, and that builds it up.
Yeah, and there is an element of reprogramming of your mind, because the human-centered mind and the inner child, which is, we teach is part of this human-centered mind of yours, other people call it the ego, will have a natural resistance to any change. So an affirmation is a statement of intent of positive change, which your human-centered mind will resist, and your inner child will resist. But if you can almost make and keep that small promise to yourself that day or that week, it starts to build a momentum and also a trust that for the first time, perhaps for many people, you're actually following through on what you said you're going to do. And so for the inner child who is often like, oh, well, this is not going to work. This is a load of rubbish.
Or I can't trust you.
I can't trust you. You never keep your promises. How many times have you tried to diet before? How many times have you tried to change your thinking on this subject before? How many times have you tried this and failed? You'll get all that kind of kickback. But if you keep the affirmation small, doable, and fulfill it and take action, it starts to almost like, would you say, win the inner child over?
Well, I think is if you listen to what Alex said and what we teach about, your mind loves familiarity, and it will always want to push you down the road of familiar. So when the new way becomes familiar, the mind just adopts the new way. So you don't have to fight. So keeping to a regime that you are going to succeed, knocking off 2 minutes off your walk, whatever it is, and you're going to achieve it. And then the mind, you start to build back up that trust with yourself. And that really is what self-doubt is. If you think about self-doubt or self-criticism, you're criticizing yourself. So you have to turn that around. So you start to build up this integrity with yourself of what you mean you say. Isn't the common word like walk the walk and talk the talk? Have you heard that phrase? So you start to live your life, not for anybody else. Don't do this for anyone else, please. Just do this for you simply because you're worth it. Don't worry about what anybody says. And you know what? If you don't get it right one day, if you fall off your bike, get back on the bike and start pedaling, because it doesn't matter. You are a human being. You will not get these things right on first attempt. But the whole process of affirmations is to keep affirming to yourself, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Keep on working and building up that momentum. And this is what will make a change in your life, because it will attract the law of attraction into your life. And you'll start to be more attentive on what you're doing, what you're thinking, the way you're acting, those belief systems, and this will slowly change your life around.
Okay, so we've moved on to talking about the law of attraction. So let's look at how affirmations actually work. We've mentioned that they start to reprogram your conscious and subconscious thinking from an old pattern or habitual way of thinking to a new pattern and way of thinking. And as far as the inner child's concerned, there's that earning of trust and development of trust that you are fulfilling, which is very important. So that's the kind of how they work in terms of what's going on internally. But from a Taoist perspective, in terms of affirmations and energy and vibration and the law of attraction, what's going on when we're doing affirmations or we're saying an affirmation? Okay,
so this is very important. Remember, we're always in a chi flow, and so when you're affirming lies, I'm not good enough, I can't cope, I'm unlovable, the world's against me, everybody hates me, I don't look right, I want validation from the outside. What you're doing is sending out chi vibrations. You're actually trying to do this where you're doing a self-fulfilling prophecy. So when things go wrong, you kind of say to yourself, there you are, look, I knew this was going to happen. And you kind of doing your prophesizing doom and then working your way to doom and then using it as a kind of a circle, and you get on what the Taoists call a carousel of despair. And you're on this carousel of despair going round and around, and you're attracting more negative energy into your life, because that's really what you want, because you're trying to prove a negative. Please stop proving a negative. You are not negative. Your life isn't negative. You are awesome. Stop doing this. This is a very bad trick you're doing. And you must stop it, because all you're doing is attracting more of the same into your life. The law of attraction is very simple. We've done lots of videos on it.
And I'll put a link to that. We've done a long video on our law of attraction teaching.
It is like looking in the mirror. And if you stick your tongue out, that's what you see back. If you smile, if you're happy, that's what you get back. Yeah. So I understand, and lots of people say, oh, well, that sounds easy, David. I feel really crap now. How can I become happy? That's when affirmations, little bit at a time. Just today, in the next hour, smile at the next person. How about that? How about that for an affirmation? Smile at the next person you see. Don't expect nothing back. You're not doing it for them. Do it for you. That's a great affirmation. Stand a bit taller. I'll give you an affirmation now. Drop your shoulders. Just breathe a little deeper. Right now. And just notice how that changes the way you think. There you are. That's a good affirmation. Today, I'm going to try and breathe a little deeper. Today, I'm not going to hold my shoulders so tight. Yeah. Today, when I drink a cup of tea, I'm just going to give myself a few extra moments. Great affirmations. Nothing wrong with those affirmations at all. And then slowly they'll turn that negative thinking around. I think they say it takes about 50 miles to turn one of those oil tankers around. And sometimes that's what it takes. When you're doing negative, you have to slow it down, stop, and then turn it around. And that's why affirmations are so good if they're used correctly.
Because one of your kind of most well-known quotes is, be mindful of your self-talk. It's a conversation with the universe. And as we said right at the beginning, an affirmation is that conversation with the universe. Absolutely. Whether you vocalize it, verbalize it outwardly, say it out loud, or you have it internally as your self-talk. It's so powerful.
Can I say it's even more powerful when you say it to yourself? It's even more powerful. And what you do, you think that no one's listening, but you are then emitting, sending out chi. So actually, in my view, the universe is listening. The universe is listening to you. When you go, oh, poor me, I can't cope, isn't it a shame, nobody loves me, you are sending out that energy all of the time. Stop it. Stop it. It's not going to work. It's not going to suddenly right itself. The universe doesn't come to you and go, oh, you poor thing, stop. The universe just reflects what you're doing. It's your responsibility to stop it. And this is where affirmations can be so powerful, because don't think affirmations are not for me, because you're already using them.
You're already doing them. Exactly. So why not do it correctly? Why not do it positively? And I really like this idea of, don't let the human-centered mind trick you into thinking, oh, well, your affirmation isn't very stretching or isn't very far-reaching. That little tiny affirmation you've set for yourself today, that's not going to get you anywhere. Do not listen to your human-centered mind when it jumps on you like that, because actually that small little affirmation and promise that you make to yourself in that day, in that moment, for that week, that too has such a powerful energy. It's like a tiny stone being dropped into the big energetic pond. The ripples will carry on outwards. So don't fall into the trap of thinking just because it's not a big, bold, crazy affirmation that it's not going to work, because you're then falling into that human-centered mind trap, because the human-centered mind does not want you to change. It does not want you to move. It wants to keep you in this negative thinking habit.
Well done, Alex. And another trap not to fall into. Don't fall into the trap saying, well, I'm just saying it to myself, so it doesn't really matter. It matters the most. It is the most important thing what you say to yourself. It's almost least important what you say to other people. What you say to yourself, that self-talk, remember, it's a conversation with the universe. The universe is listening to every word that you're saying. You are creating those ripples, as Alex said. The ripples are going out. You can't stop it. You can't stop it working. You can't say,
all the time. It's like a radio signal that's going out all the time. That's the natural way of energy. It cannot be stopped. So you might as well tune in to the positive vibrations, realign yourself, and start to do those tiny, tiny little steps we're talking about.
So an affirmation has to be the truth. It has to be obtainable. Keep it small, keep it regular. tick it off where you, as when you do it. Yeah. Give yourself a tap on the back and say, well done today. Great. Yeah. That's what I've done. I've done it. Do I need to do it again tomorrow? Do I need to do it this week? It doesn't matter to me whether you're just repeating that same affirmation for a whole week and you just keep on doing it until you go, well, that's easy now. Mm-hmm. Then you set yourself another affirmation.
Okay. So the other important Taoist Wu Wei Wisdom teaching, which is at the fundamental core of affirmations work, is the concept of Yi. Yi. Do you want to explain a little bit about that, David?
So Yi means intention. You sometimes hear me at the end of the meditation, I go, Yi Dao, Qi Dao. You set your intention where you want to go to. So say for instance, I don't know, you want to give me something, I can't think of, I want to earn more money.
Yeah.
So I
want to be financially secure.
Great.
So I can live the life of my dreams.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to be financially secure. So first of all, set that intention. That's like the roadmap. That's like setting your sat-nav. I want to go to London, New York. You set your sat-nav. I want to go there. Now, as Alex says, you can't just flick your fingers. We're not in Star Trek and appear there. There's got to be a journey.
Teleportation from where you are now to this lifestyle.
And you can't say, well, I'm not, I want to travel to New York, which is 3 days away and I've not arrived yet. So you set your intention, you set where you want to go, and then you start to chunk it back. Okay, so I want to go here. What's the first step that I can do on that road? Mm-hmm. And here's the affirmation. Do not affirm to the intention, affirm to your next step. Mm-hmm. Confirm the next step that you want to do on that journey. So if you're going, I don't know, as we live in the UK, if you're going to London, the first thing you do is to pack your bags. That's the first step. Can I pack the bags and make sure I've got everything right? Yeah. You see what I'm saying? You chunk it down. You chunk it down into manageable steps and you affirm that step.
Yeah. So the Yi is, I think now's the time we'll start to come and talk about the model of how we use affirmations. If the first step is setting the intention, so being clear on the intention, the Yi, that's I guess you would say it's your overall goal. Yeah. But you need to check that that's authentic.
And correct.
So like we said earlier on, it's not an extreme version. So in the example of, if I believe I'm not lovable now, the other extreme would be everyone loves me. So the middle way, the Yi, the authentic intention, the Wu Wei, the balanced, harmonious Wu Wei of that would be, I am lovable.
Yes, I am love.
Or I am loved.
I do not earn love.
So
you set your intention to believing that you are loved.
Yeah.
You do not need to be validated from someone else. You do not need to be reassured that you are loved. You set your intention in proving and believing that you are loved.
Yeah.
Then you chunk back.
Okay.
So you chunk back to why at the moment you do not believe you are loved and you believe you need validation. You believe you need strokes. You need to be ticked and to be reassured. So you chunk back.
Okay. So to illustrate that first step again, just so I'm absolutely clear, we talk about the pendulum. If this is where I am now, on one end of the extreme of the pendulum, so I believe I'm not lovable. The authentic intention, the Yi, the overall goal or long-term affirmation is not to be everyone loves me. The middle way is, the Wu Wei, the Yi is I am love or I am lovable.
And I take responsibility for me.
In another example, if it's like affirmations and goals to do with, say, money and financial success or financial security, if the pendulum again, if I'm at the one extreme now, so I believe I'm poor, I believe I always struggle with money, I always have money problems, The opposite extreme would be, I want to be a millionaire and never, ever, ever have to worry about money again. The middle way, the yi, the authentic intention would be, I want financial security so that it enables me to do what I want to do in my life.
I want to be in control of my
finances. So
finances.
that's my yi, my intention, my long-term goal or affirmation there. Okay, so that's the first step. So we've done that kind of check to bring it back to something authentic.
Yes.
Now you talk about this idea of then chunking it down.
Yes.
So because when I first do, say if we look at the yi, the intention that I am love, I am lovable. If I start saying that as an affirmation to myself now, I currently believe I'm not lovable. I'm no good. I'm not lovable. David, if I say, oh, I am love, I am love, I am love, I am lovable, that it just doesn't feel right. I get lots of red light feelings. I got internal resistance. It's just not going to work. And I'm basically going to give up this affirmations process. So what do I have to do next? What's the next step?
So the first step is to make your goal authentic and truthful and honest. If you believe in this one, I am love, then you don't say, all right, I'm going to wake up every morning and say, I am love, because that's not going to work. You then go and say, why don't I believe that? And
why have I got the resistance?
Exactly. This is why red lights, I like to call them red lights. The red lights are helping you. What is my red light? What is my first? It's like, I almost think about it like a door blocking you. Mm-hmm. What is the first door that blocks me? So you go to the first door and you ask yourself what that first door is.
So this is the golden thread.
This is the
golden thread process. So if I say to myself, I am love, I am lovable, I get a resistance. I get uncomfortable red light feelings.
So what are
I
the
know
red
there's
lights?
a conflict there.
So what's the thought?
So the thought is, well, when I was a child, for example, my friends made fun of me and nobody wanted to play with me. And so that's, I can't be lovable.
And so that's on the golden thread now.
That's the first block.
So you go down and you say, are you telling me then that when children bully another child, that means that child is then unlovable? Mm-hmm. So you do then the golden thread work, which you see me do every time we do it.
Yeah.
So you ask yourself those questions. So you see what you've done? Mm-hmm. You've separated your feelings. You've gone to the thought or the belief that's created the feelings. Yeah. And then you start asking yourself those questions. Why do I believe that? Is that the truth? Yeah. So, for instance, if it's what you're saying, it's because I was bullied at school. They would only bully me if I was unlovable. Yeah. Then you start to interrogate that thought. Yeah. One of the interrogations I'd give you is a great tip. So if your child come home and said to you, Mom, Dad, I've been bullied at school, would you say to them, well, that's quite simple. That's because you're unlovable. Yeah. Of course you wouldn't. It's ridiculous. Then why do you believe it? So you work on that belief first.
So
that's your intention.
So if we use this idea of, it's almost like your long-term intention, your yi, is behind a series of doors which are locked. These are the blocks. These are the old beliefs, the old misunderstandings, the old lies, a series of them layering that is stopping you breaking through to
and
that
they
long-term
are also
goal.
Familiar, Alex.
Yeah, and they're familiar. That's your story.
That's your story.
That's your story. So this is my old story is that when my friends made fun of me and nobody wanted to play with me at school, that proved to me that I was unlovable. So this is my story. I've now got to work on this block. And what you're saying is to look at it, examine it, question it, create an affirmation around that block.
And then you change
and you work on just that singular block.
That's right. That could take you a day, could take you a week. It won't take you a month, but you'll be surprised if you chunk it down like we've just shown you and work on that. So my affirmation would be something like that. I would then ask you, it's much better if you come up with it. Mm-hmm. So do you believe that if you're bullied at school, that makes the child unlovable? Mm-hmm. Then you would say, no, being bullied at school does not make the child unlovable. And that's your affirmation. I believe the being bullied at school does not make the child being bullied unlovable. And you keep on refining it and making it nice and short.
Or I love my child.
Or I love my child. But lovely.
Today I'm going to love my inner child.
Regardless of her being or him being bullied.
What happened in the past.
You see what happens then? As you start to develop, you start to come up with a better affirmation. That you might in one day have 3 or 4 good affirmations.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you've got a really good affirmation. Then you stick with that affirmation, maybe for a week or 2 days or 3 days, until it sounds ridiculous. Why would you believe a child being bullied is unlovable?
So you basically, so you may start with some level of green light or amber light, the kind of intermediate stage, but you've started with a small affirmation, today I'm going to love my child, or today I'm going to take responsibility for loving myself, or I know I don't need external validation, I only need validation from myself. Today I'm going to nurture myself a little bit more. Something like that. Start it small. Keep saying it, practicing it as part of your affirmation routine.
Keep changing it.
And then as soon as the red light or any resistance, small resistance changes to green lights, then you know it's now time.
The door's open.
That door's swung open.
Walk through the door.
And then find the next
And you're
door.
looking for you're still now looking for your your intention.
Okay.
And you go towards your intention now and you go to the next door.
So you test the intention again.
Exactly.
So you've walked through door 1. You've removed that old story. You've essentially reprogrammed your mind. You've created trust with the inner child on the truth. So you've stepped through that one door. So you ask yourself the long-term ye affirmation again. You say, if there is still the internal resistance, so you've done that kind of testing, there's another door, there's another block to be dealt with.
And you do
so
exactly
you do the
same.
golden thread again. Ask yourself why. So, for example, I believe I'm unlovable because my last partner had an affair and walked out on me, so I must be unlovable. So there's the block, and then you do the work on that block.
Work again.
Exactly the same process. Ask it why.
Separate the feelings from the thoughts. Always do the first step. Don't use the F word. Remember, I keep telling you, don't use the F word. I feel, I think, I choose, I believe. I believe that my partner had an affair because I'm unlovable. And you do the golden thread. And you work on that. Again, that might take you a day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. And you keep on finding the affirmation. They had an affair because they chose to have an affair. It was nothing to do with you. Actually, you being lovable, unlovable, really has nothing to do with it. They define themselves by going and having the affair. They're not defining you. So you find the affirmation, you work through it. And this is why Alex said at the beginning, don't go and look in a book for an affirmation, because I want you to these affirmations to be dynamic, changing and personal to you.
And you can see now we're explaining this, the importance of doing the golden thread work, addressing the blocks, the old stories. You can see how it's so vital that this work has to be so personal to you. And you can see why blanket affirmations off books and audio recordings just don't even scratch the surface. Because, I know you work through this process with all your clients, and it's the affirmations and the golden thread work are used in tandem. You can see it goes hand in hand together. So for this I'm unlovable one, moving to I am love, I hope you can see that the I'm not good enough and I can't cope, or they're the other two main lies, as we call them. You can see how exactly the same process will be worked through. For something like the money issue,
it'll be the same thing.
The same issue.
It'll be the same thing.
The starting point, as we said, would be, I always got money problems, I'm always struggling with money. The doors, the blocks, the old stories are typically
I don't
things
deserve to be rich.
Money creates problems.
I've seen my mum and dad always arguing about money, and it's always the same thing because these are emotional blocks, and you have to take responsibility. Remember, you create your emotions. You are not the victim of them. So on all of these things that are not allowing you to flow harmoniously in your life are always emotional blocks. This is emotional education. This is why this is so important. And please, I'm just listening to us here. I know we've been talking about it and it sounds a bit complicated, but I can tell you, in my experience, you may only be talking about 2, 3, 4 blocks. Not, they are big blocks.
This is not a lifetime
This is
work.
not like you're going to do 100 doors you've got to go through. You'll be surprised because once you've gone through 1 or 2 doors, guess what? You get a master at opening doors. You see a door and you'll just open it.
You just get the process,
You just get the process, and it's like you can open any door. Once you stick with that first 1 or 2, you just become a master at opening doors. So don't listen to this, and we've had to explain it in detail and think, oh my God, that sounds so complicated. It's not complicated. It's finding the block, working your way through the block. That's what our Facebook community is there. We all help each other. We'll give you tips. Work your way through the block. If you think you are unlovable is the truth, then prove it to me. Tell me why you think you are unlovable. And then you got to the block. I think I'm unlovable, David, because my father told me I wasn't good enough. There's the block. You have to work through that block and open the door. And then that's what you've got to do. And then become a master of this. You can become a master of this. Once you know it, any door, you start looking for doors to open. You'll be so good at it. You'll be opening all the doors.
Yeah, and see, I know a lot of people say, oh, it's just too much to do. It's overwhelming. I'm never going to get there. But hopefully you can see with this process of, it's like a gentle unfolding and unlocking and examining of the blocks of the old story. It's a living, working process, and the way we teach it and you work with your clients through it, it's a step-by-step process, and chunking it down this way, gently levering open the door, creating that element of trust of your inner child as you do the small steps, the small stage affirmations. It becomes so much more possible, and so powerful. Less overwhelming.
Powerful.
Yeah.
This is you being authentic. This is when I say you're awesome. This is the proof. You are awesome, amazing person. You can do this. Yeah. Because no one has ever showed you. We're showing you now. Yes, at the beginning, like anything new, the learning curve is always a little bit difficult. You're not perfect. Don't go into the prison of perfection. You will get it wrong. You should get it wrong. Then you learn from your mistakes. Do it 2 or 3 times. Keep changing the affirmation until you get the affirmation that's right for you.
That's really important.
And then share it in the group. Say, I've come up with a great affirmation today.
Because another thing the human-centered mind or the inner child will be looking for you to do is to skip a day with the affirmations, or
we can't be bothered today,
or promise yourself something in an affirmation and not do it, and they'll be like, oh, there you go, I knew you can do it. Just get back on the bike the next day and start again and believe that the process is working, and start to see with these little steps how you are making progress. So the end goal then is we break through, as you say, normally only 2, 3, 4 doors or
normally
blocks
not more than 4
before you get to that end goal, that end ye intention. So you know you're almost there, because when you test, you've broken through the last door and you test that intention, that affirmation saying, I am lovable, I am love, then you sense there's less resistance.
No resistance. So when I look in the camera to you
full
here,
acceptance.
Exactly. When I look in the camera to you here and say, you are awesome, you go, yeah, of course I am. There's no resistance.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, absolutely.
And you know this is part, David, you've done this work so many times with so many clients, so you know this can work. No matter what your starting point is.
No matter what happened to you.
No matter how old you are.
No matter your age.
No matter how many years you've been thinking and holding on to these barriers. It is possible.
I believe in you. I absolutely believe and know you can do this. You would not be sticking with us through this video. I think we're on to nearly 45, 50 minutes now. You can do this. Give yourself time. Do not CCJ. Do not criticize. Do not compare yourself. Do not be judgmental about yourself or other people. Don't judge yourself against other people. It'll take as long as it takes for you. It might take a week. It might take a month. It might take 6 months. You're on the road. Enjoy the journey. Keep on doing it. If you get it wrong, then share it and find out why you're getting it wrong. You'll see everybody saying, oh, yeah, I fell down there as well. Oh, try this way, try that way, try this way. And keep on trying, keep on trying. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the trying. You know, spiritual development is one of the most glorious things that you can do. You know, a lot of words that people call it is enlightenment. It does lighten you. You get free. You're not restricted in this prison of perfection where you're worried about what other people think about you. You're judging yourself. You're judging them. You're trying a one-upmanship. You want to be top dog. You want to be, you know, and all of that. You're looking externally. You have everything you need. You are amazing. You are amazing. Never, never, never doubt yourself. What part of you is doubting what part of you? It's a nonsense. Stop all of that. Focus on the next door. Learn to be how to open doors. Learn all the tech, learn all the techniques, the golden thread. You've got everything here. You've got all the support here. Find those solutions and resolve those issues that are in your life and change your life. Change your thoughts. You change your life.
Brilliant. And so just finally, David, a question we often get asked is, well, how do I actually apply the affirmations? Do I do them in the morning? Do I do them 3 times a day, 4 times a day? Do I write them down? Do I say them out loud? I know you do personal recordings with people, clients' personal affirmations on an audio recording for them. What's the best way to?
There's no best way because that's perfection. Remember, no best way. You keep on finding a way that suits you. Some people like doing a journal, fantastic. Some people like stick-it notes, put it on the mirror in the morning, fantastic. Some people like
the mirror work, looking in the mirror.
Looking in the mirror. Sometimes some of my clients like me to do them a little tape when we do our meditation at the end of the session, so they take it home. The main thing is to find the way that suits you. There are many ways. Many people like to be in our Facebook community and share and talk, and that's a great way. And you know, you keep on trying. You see, this is not perfection. There is no best way. You find the way that suits you and you share it. And then it might suit somebody else. It might not suit me. You like doing the morning papers, writing. Some people don't like doing that. You know, and that's fine. I really enjoy meditation. I would say try meditation. Remember, meditation is not sitting cross-legged in front of a Buddha for 3 hours. You can do a meditation as you're drinking a cup of tea. You just focus on your next affirmation. You try and figure out how to do this tour. It always makes me smile when I see people doing this, what they call it, Sudoku, and all these little crossword puzzles. Think about it that way. It's a little puzzle that you've got to solve and set about solving it. You can solve this. This is life-changing for you. You can do it. I believe in you. I know you can do it.
Great. Thank you. Well, we've covered a lot of stuff there, as per usual.
Too much, perhaps.
No. Well, if you have any questions or comments on what we've talked about in today's video, please post them below. If you've got any ideas for future video recordings, please also let us know, because we always want to know and produce videos
what's important to you.
For what's important to you. And we thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.